That's the funniest.
Already done. Yeah, but in order for them to really accept it formally, they need the agreement.
Mm-hmm. That was weird.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Was that?
But we're going to show our sponsors, but I just want to say before, not only do I really super appreciate our sponsors, but I appreciate the sponsors for Medical Mondays, especially for last night, too. We're going to talk about the show that they put on a little bit, but let's check out the great people working with us right here. Of course, all these places and the others we discussed not interested in opening up the act and reducing or restricting existing caregiver rights. So we definitely appreciate that. So last night on Medical Mondays, and Rick, why don't you spin around, see who's everybody here, especially if we don't have a video.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for all of our listeners on Alexa and Spotify and all of our podcast audience across the world. We're featured today with Jamie Lowell, myself, Rick Thompson, Debra Young, Jim Salame is here, Mr. Hashbash, Adam L. Brook, Berg from Medical Mondays. You got to always do the Berg when you say that name. And, of course, the man of the hour, the man we're here to talk mostly about, Matthew Abel, Executive Director of Michigan NORML and Principal at Cannabis Caucus. Jamie, take it away.
All right. So, Matt, cool. We'll get your input on this, and then, we'll we get through some of this introductory stuff. We will turn the focus to you and what we're basically going to be paying attention today, and I appreciate you coming on early. I also saw you having a little bit of an exchange. I mean, nothing major, but with Randy Buckman on social media, and I kind of agreed with the direction you were going in, and it's what I was trying to impart last night when he was on Medical Mondays, and he accepted the invitation from Berg to discuss this stuff after all this controversy was blowing up on social media about this organization, the Michigan Cannabis Manufacturers Association, and their members. And our concern ultimately was the opening of the act to restrict or take away existing caregiver rights, and understanding they're trying to create better conditions, for themselves, and thinking that this might be a way to do it. Obviously, all of us disagreed with that on some level, and we suggested other ways of trying to help out with their perceived issue with this. And one thing you mentioned, Matt, was try to get a lot of these townships and cities to allow for more smaller gardens, more of the Class A's that were designed to try to help caregivers scale up to the commercial system. Those aren't being allowed as often or as much as they should be, and that on some levels would help out. And we had a few other ideas for them to concentrate more on their existing business and to worry about their branding and having quality products and providing it at fair prices with good service and appeasing those or appealing to those who like to come into the stores. There are many people who prefer that over other ways, and to not worry about the other ways. That's not part of their immediate concern. So that was some of the discussion. To be nice about it, it did get a little heated at times. There were many of us getting protective of the fact that people are trying to peel back what we've achieved over the years. So I think that in some ways created some stress.
When you catch people using crafty language too, Jamie, when you catch people that are begging for restrictions and don't want you to say the word restrictions, they're begging for you to have a crackdown on caregivers, but don't want to say that you want law enforcement to do that crackdown. That's the only people that have the enforcement ability to do so.
Right. They were very disingenuous.
I mean, who was taking that position? There was more than one person taking that position.
Yeah, there were 3 people from Pleasantries on there, and that was their. Yeah, that was essentially their position. Yeah. Go ahead, Jamie.
Wow.
Well, okay, so I'm just kind of setting the stage this conversation that last night that many of us either participated in, watched, or kind of know what these surrounding issues are. And that's, kind of what I'd like to spend the first part of this talking about, because that was very interesting last night. I'm sorry that it kind of fell apart. It was kind of destined to. There was just a clash in philosophy, and we couldn't reconcile some things, and it wasn't the, kind of a calm, civil, rational forum throughout to address it in that way. And understandably so. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. So hopefully we can continue the conversation later under different circumstances. But I want to reflect on it a little bit because it revealed a lot. I mean, they left the MCMA because of a lot of criticism, but then didn't really seem to change their philosophical approach at all. So
Right,
I mean,
they didn't leave because
what exactly
they
is being
disagreed
achieved
with
there?
They didn't leave because they disagreed with the MCMA. They disagreed because of the fallout they were getting because of the MCMA. And I pointed out last night that, you know, I guarantee you there is a bunch of groups, licensees, who are not participating in the MCMA because they have no interest in being attached to this stuff, not because they don't agree, but because they don't want their name on it. So we have to understand that while we have seen the word in big red letters, boycott, on social media, the actual thing we need to do is reinform and take care of, get rid of some of this misinformation, because most of the people reading this social media posts aren't going into these places anyways. You know, none of us are. None of us are customers of these people.
True.
So, you know, it's really about information and getting the word out. And the sad part is our opposition is being disingenuous by not coming out and saying, listen, there's 30,000 caregivers. That means that there's possibly another 150,000 patients that they take care of. And we want those 180,000 people shopping with us, not amongst themselves. They're not coming out and saying, listen, this is a business move for us.
No, they're not. And one of the things we suggested, or I suggested to them last night, is let's work on making things more broad and liberal in the commercial system, so it's less costly and you can be more competitive that way instead of trying to peel back and make more restrictions in other places.
Right.
I'd like to still have that conversation with them.
I just
You have
want
to,
to
you have
add.
to, go ahead.
No, I just want to add that they're not only going after caregivers, they're going after the recreational people, home grows. Can you hear me?
No, you're
Yeah.
muted
It's kind of
somehow.
faint.
No, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah, sure.
Well, that's all I wanted to add, that they're not just going after caregivers, they're going after the recreational market too. And I
They
think
want to be the
more-
sole source.
Well, and smaller companies eventually is the concern
Right.
and
Yeah.
a likely strategy. Yeah.
But they're saying things that just are not true. And that's the biggest thing the biggest problem I have is hypocrisy. And when you say things about caregiver product that are just not true, I'm going to call you out on it. And to talk about safety, you know, they just refuse to talk about the black market at all. I mean, you can talk about the caregiver market all you want, but you also have to know that larger than the caregiver market and larger than your licensed market is the black market, and it's huge and it's doing wonderful. And there is no testing, and there never will be testing. And people know good weed from bad when they're on the street. So to make claims that are just not true, and worse, they came from this. Those guys were caregivers.
Well, we never had a chance to challenge them totally on that, to say name one incident that took place that's of concern that requires this extra attention in these other areas by you for safety concerns.
Where are the bodies? We have more licensed recalls than we do anything else.
Yeah.
You know, trust me, when the brown acid wasn't good, they let everybody know. Okay? We take care of our own.
Plus, the government's responded very well when it's seen products on the marketplace that they didn't think was safe. When we had K2 and Spice out there, they responded. Local communities acted initially before the state did. Even local retailers that saw problems pulled it off their shelf. And it wasn't long before that poison was taken away. We've had decades and decades. There's been no medical emergency. There's been no reason for us to be concerned about regular cannabis, even the stuff that came from Mexico that had grasshopper legs in it, right?
Where are the
Yeah,
bodies?
it had
Well,
beetles.
Daryl reemphasizes too what we said last night a lot of times. I just put it up there, and that is like the pie is big enough for all of it, really, to kind of get concerned about what they're actually working on and
And why be
participating with.
disingenuous? Why not?
I think this is for Berg.
Oh, there you go. Don said thanks for last night. There you go, Berg.
Yeah.
Your boy Donald reaching out.
We're reaching around.
Hey, who knows who's doing what?
Hey, you know, I was going to
I
say
wasn't there.
it's quite,
Here you go, Jim.
big deal that we have caregivers for people that have extenuating circumstances health-wise, like what, they can't find certain products in these bigger places that aren't tailor-made for their ailment that they're suffering from, whatever autoimmune it may be, or cancer issue. And I think that really takes away a lot of the compassion that this whole thing was built upon in the first place.
Jim, while I agree with you, I'm going to, and I hate having to take their side. That's not what they're talking about. And again, if they'd be honest, I wouldn't have to have this conversation with you right now.
Yeah,
but
I know what you mean.
They're talking about the guy that gets a caregiver card, loads up his card, gets his 5 patients, gets a house, puts his 72 in there, goes and gets another house, puts another 72 in there.
Yeah, I understand that.
And
but
but
a good argument is this part about the medical side. The medical side is so important to keep it at the forefront, in my opinion, because it's what this was built on in the first place.
Well, it's questionable if it's causing any problems for these guys, but we know for sure that it does help out a lot of people. So to start screwing around with it, again, it should be a non-starter.
And there's still
talking about moving forward.
There's cops all across the state still on the lookout for operations like you just talked about. There's plenty of enforcement going on right now. Debra Young told me the other day,
still take those risks.
1 million pounds of cannabis or something stopped at the Canadian border they got. The fact is, there's still plenty of enforcement going on. What we don't need is someone using their spurs on the cops like you're trying to urge a horse forward, right? We don't need that. No.
Yeah, you don't need people knocking on the doors wanting to count your plants and what's going on.
Well, right, and they were big on that. They were big on this whole local control.
When I was
talking, thing that came from the municipal league about how to get into people's houses and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
And I was talking about code. That's strictly civil approaches. If you're going to really get behind and try to support more enforcement in some way, and these things that are questionable or outside of the commercial system or what's recognized in the laws or something like that, let's handle those things civilly. Whenever those things have to be addressed. This is just cannabis.
Yeah.
None of this stuff warrants invasions, military style invasions that we've seen over the years. That should be done with. But they're still right for that stuff under the right circumstances. There's no question.
And I would say if the government really believed in social equity as a payback, they would do exactly what you're inferring, Jamie. And they would just be completely hands off when it came to criminal aspect. If the government was true and they really believed that this is no longer needs to be handled criminally, then they should they should be a party to that. Instead, they're two-faced and they're taking money for licenses, and then they're going after people who are working outside of that system or even working within that system but making errors, and they're going to want to charge them criminally. This is the benign substance that we know it to be, and they know that. And they've realized that, but they're still not being truthful.
It's tough to have an intelligent conversation. There was an intelligent conversation, but a conversation with integrity when you know that the person you're speaking to has a completely different perception of value, right? They value their success of their business as prime, and therefore they don't mind asking people to get stepped on in order to ensure that the continuation of their business. Here's the thing, though. Even if you were to take away a caregiver, those patients that caregiver service, they don't automatically go to the regulated market. Those people already know the unregulated market to work with. So because you didn't change purchasing habits, you didn't change sourcing, and you also made an enemy for life because you put their caregiver, who is one of their friends, in jail. So if they know that you were responsible for that, you will never get their business. It's so counterproductive to pursue this line. Didn't they learn anything from Green Peak's mistake? They had to rebrand their entire company because they screwed up so bad.
Yeah.
What about
That's a fresh example that they should have known about.
Patients would never be able to afford this. Could you imagine the average patient smoking, even just an ounce a week? The expense, myself, a couple ounces a week. Going to a dispensary and having to lay out $700-800 a week on weed. Who the hell even brings that home nowadays? That's just crazy. patients will go
I
to the
just
black
want-
market if they don't have the caregivers.
It dawned on me last night that, a lot of these dispensaries at one point were taking in caregiver product.
Yes.
And
Oh,
they
yeah.
certainly didn't want to get rid of the caregivers then.
No, we're begging for
And-
it. That's why they let them do
then
it.
When they lost them, many were even upset about the fact that they couldn't get caregiver product. So now for their association, and don't get me wrong, MCMA is not the only association in this game. They're just the ones that stepped out on this subject. A lot of these associations would love to do what their members would do for their members, exactly what this one is. Right. And that's to do right by their members and get the laws to benefit them. The problem is this is the weed game. This is very different. We came from an illicit,
and it must be understood to make those correct decisions. Exactly.
And they don't have, these companies don't have somebody in their C-level suite telling them, you know what, we can't do that because that pothead guy that goes on that radio show, he's going to give you a hard time for it.
So if we're going to go look to open up the act, and we're talking about the caregivers and the fact under emergency rules that they were supplying the inventory, as was the system that was working for several years before anything was ever passed on a statewide level to be recognized across the state. We should be talking about formally putting something like that back into place because it worked. And I mean, and I'm not suggesting necessarily that, it'd be fine if there's an effort to do this, but something like that happens way before we talk about pulling back rights. I mean, again, moving forward, the pediatric bill is a great thing. Kids could use quick response on their medicine. If they're in class on a grade school ground, currently the parent has to come from wherever they are, take the child off grounds, administer medicine, and bring the child back or whatever. And some of these things are very time sensitive, and we know that it's happened in other states. So to do that one makes sense, and that's a move forward. That's being progressive. That's doing something that's more functional out of the law. But anytime we're looking at peeling something back and going backwards and thinking that it's like helping the situation out or fixing something or whatever, it's just an exposure of not understanding what the hell is going on here completely.
I think it's important. I'm sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
I just said it not helpful, but go ahead.
But it's important to note that the Pleasantries yesterday, before they came on Medical Mondays, resigned from the MCMA. It's also very important to note that Randall Buckman was the president or the chairman, one of the two, of MCMA. So he was a top dog in that organization.
And the lawyer that was there, he was the lawyer for the MCMA.
Yeah, he was legal counsel to the MCMA.
So those are some pretty significant pillars running away.
So there was some pressure that was felt. They didn't really change their mind on their approach to the caregiver.
They don't change their philosophy. They just dropped out of the group. They did not change their philosophy.
They ran away from the game. They didn't change their attitude.
Yeah, they're trying to shake off that publicity, but.
Can anyone speak on how organized the caregiver group is? I mean, it's been around a long time. Having that law exist for, almost 10 years before rec hit, right? So.
Well, yeah,
that's an interesting thing to discuss, man. I know. Adam may have something to say, but I just want to point out that many things have been tried to have a formal caregiver group over the years, and nothing has ever held together with any real significance. I know it's being worked on again now, and I hope maybe this is a strong enough reason to bring people together. But it has yet to happen.
I'm happy you said it that way, Jamie, because I was going to point out that while there's been a need, the ability for a bunch of caregivers to get together wasn't so needed because they were almost content with what they were working with.
Yep.
They didn't need change. They were happy to work within that system. And again, I'm not going to bullshit. They work on the edges of that system a little bit.
Yeah. So fly under the radar.
There is no such term in the law as overages. You don't know a caregiver out there that doesn't know that word. So the point is that they couldn't gather together. They were afraid still. They were literally still afraid because of the world they were living in. And it's never gotten to the point where they had something up against them like this. See, it was always the government that was up against us. Well, once we passed the law, we were good. The government wasn't against us. All we had to do was tell a good story and show our cards in the proper order, you know, and we would generally be able to confuse the cops to at least understand that they weren't a threat anymore. Well, now you have the in the industry itself telling the government that no, you need to come after these people, and that might make change.
That's the betrayal. That's what hurts the most. And I know Spartan Grown was one of the gentlemen that was on the show last night. I think he expressed that most emotionally, that it's when someone comes from being a caregiver and probably did some of these actions and then wants to draw all of this unwanted attention, this CPS action, these code enforcement officers, these Michigan State Police troopers, whichever tool of authoritarianism you choose at that particular time. You don't bring that on people's lives intentionally. That's why you don't snitch. That's why you don't do things. That's a horrible experience, and you don't put our people through that. And you especially don't put people that are sick through that. If you're a patient, a doctor says you're sick, and you have to respect that. And almost all caregivers are patients. I can't think of a caregiver that's not a registered patient in my mind. I can't.
And they're deeply offended by this concept of a boycott. Like, we called them out on something they were doing, and they're offended by that. As opposed to owning it and accepting it as you know, this is what they believe in, and we don't understand. That's what they should be saying. Instead, they're offended that we're calling them out for what they know is wrong. They know it.
Hey, Matt, before we turn direction and kind of get off of this and focus more on you, just want to get some of your thoughts on this whole thing.
Hey, guys. Happy 420.
Happy 420, Matt.
So I do go to dispensaries because it's part of my job, because I have to advise clients about the commercial market. And I think in order to understand the commercial market, I at least need to view it up close. And, you know, I've been smoking the devil's lettuce here for nearly 50 years, not quite. And I've rolled a lot of joints in my time. My preferred method, much to my girlfriend's chagrin, fiance, is smoking joints. So I have rolled a lot of joints. I have a roller because I used to smoke cigarettes. I like them packed, like, you know, fat with tips and good ends on them so they don't go squirrely on me. And, you know, so it lasts for a minute. And it's not a pen joint, and I use thin papers and that kind of thing. So it's really a pleasure to be able to go to a dispensary and buy a 5-pack of pre-rolled 1 gram doobies, if the quality is at least halfway decent. And usually it is at least halfway decent. You know, I haven't found any of it yet that it's like, I'm going back for some of that, you know. But I think they'll get to that point. And this is great because I have a degree in philosophy, and holy cow, I never thought I was going to be able to use it. But here we are. So it's a lot of fun because you know, how the law should be gets down to our individual philosophies about it. And but the straight economics of this supply and demand, I think, is fascinating because I don't think we've yet built out the complete commercial market. I think that we haven't built out the grow industry. I think that indoor growing, eventually the price is going to drop so much that it may be unaffordable to grow indoors. When federal legalization happens and interstate transport is possible, the price is going to drop even further. Maybe not right away, but it is. And I think the price is going to drop to the point where indoor growing, all these billions of dollars they're putting into greenhouses, maybe wasted money here within a couple of years, because it may go to outdoor growing because it's way less expensive. And once that gets dialed in, you'll be able to get really great quality. And something else we're working on is talking about appellations for cannabis. The International Cannabis Bar Association has a committee that's working on that actually assisted the state of California in getting some of that passed. And we have wine growing regions here in Michigan. There's no reason why we couldn't have like viticultural areas, canicultural areas. And I think we will. Some counties in California have like 40 different microclimates. Well, you know, Saginaw County may not be that way. It's like one big flat area, you know. Maybe that's a bad example, but Isabella. So we may have some really large growing areas. We have really good soil, really good water. We just have a shorter growing season. So the thing about an appellation, if it's going to be named, which I think will increase value, is it has to be named after that region. Well, you can't name it something squirrely. I mean, it's got to be somehow identified with that region geographically. It's got to be grown in the soil. At least the flowering stage has to be, you know, in front of God and everyone. Okay, there's no hoop houses on the appellation material. And then ideally you'd have an heirloom or a legacy strain of cannabis that's been grown outdoors in that area for a long time, that it's well suited for that soil, climate, everything else. So I think we should be on the lookout for that. We also want to develop this enough before the wine industry really gets a hold of it. We should get ahead of this now. And it's going to have to be adopted by the legislature. That's the way that these regions formally are done. Or there's I believe there's a wine council in Michigan that either sets them up or recommends them. There should be that. Hey, Cannabis Counsel, no, just kidding. That'd be great. So nothing like a little confusion in the world. But anyway, that's where my head's at lately. And I'm lucky enough that I can try to get my accountant to write off my purchases of pre-rolls when I go to the dispensaries, because I think those are business expenses. But that's just me. He's got to make his own decisions. I just give him the receipts and let him go for it, you know. So what is the business deduction for it? I know you can get, we're back to a 2 martini lunch now, right? So what the hell?
Nice. Hey, does anybody else want to throw out anything about this before we kind of move on?
Well, yeah, I do. I think that we need 100 plant grows. The whole point of having 100 plant grows was to be a transition place for a caregiver.
Yeah.
Or it could be even a permanent. I mean, a caregiver should, we should make it feasible. If we want social equity for legacy people, then damn it, the way to do it is to set up incubators of 100 plant grows, just a big old warehouse full of them, put 10 on a floor, whatever. Just fill the place up with 100 plant grows with some people who can help these folks not grow, but figure out the metric system and how to run the actual business side of it. Because I know a guy who said he was hired in as a grower and ended up being a compliance officer, because that's what it's about, you know, to keep a license. So
right, exactly. We're saying at the beginning of the beginning of the show, you look to create other opportunities within the existing law. You know, without having to go back and change, amend, you know, open up the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, the Supermajority Act to peel back stuff that already exists, to be more proactive and try to make it feasible for people to participate in the way that you described. There's something proactive that can be done that can help out with some of the perceived issues.
maybe we should target one township in each county and try to get them to allow outdoor growing farms, and just to put the plants in the soil, get some people some jobs, start producing some really good quality outdoor weed, because it likely is going to go there. And let's get this figured out. I know we have problems with air quality. We've got problems with contamination in the soil. We've got problems with contamination and pollination from from other plants. But again, we can get that figured out with zoning, etc. Maybe you can only grow hemp in some areas.
So before we get more deeply into our subject matter for the day, does anybody else want to comment on this? Berg, I know you said that you received some information last night after the show that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not going to name any names, but I mean, I know somebody that personally knows. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Just tell us you heard a rumor. As a rumor, you just say I heard a rumor.
Pleasantries spent over $10 million putting it into MCMA. I mean, I would love to have $10 million just to walk away from it.
It wasn't that loud for me, but the rumor is that they've spent $10 million on trying to advantage themselves against caregivers and things like that so far. Okay.
Rick, you're muted.
So Pleasantries spent $10 million in the MCMA, or to get in the MCMA, according to Berg's rumor.
Oh, that was it? Okay.
Berg's nodding his head, so it sounds like that's about right. Interesting.
I'm just shocked that this MCMA exists, and I wonder who all is members.
Well, that's why their website's down. It's kind of shadowy. We don't know everybody who's a member at this point. And there may be some that snuck in, hung around for a while, and now are sneaking back out and don't ever want to have their name associated with it. We may not ever know.
So I'll tell you what, let's get going. We got some people starting to show up here, and
yeah.
I'll pay cash for a list.
Matt, I wanted to we wanted to kind of talk a little bit, reflect a little bit, discuss what's going on with you right now after years of participating in many different ways in this movement, and of course, Cannabis Counsel and Executive Director of Michigan NORML for the last few years. And there was a little video created, and we have some friends coming on, and I just want to start off by showing this video real quick. But let's bring on one of our first guests today. How about the guy who started NORML itself?
Right.
Thank you very much for joining us, Keith Stroup.
My pleasure. I was shocked to hear that Matt was retiring. You're too damn young, Matt.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you. I'm curious to hear what you plan to do. I assume now that you got it legal up there, you plan to just lie out and get stoned all day, every day.
Well, how would that be different from,
pretty much. There's still more work to be done, as you know. We still have no employment protection, and there's always issues with driving, and we still have the federal thing going on, and that needs to get cracked, and the international law, which we all set up against us in the first place.
Well, by the way, also, if you've taken time to look at the details of that recent New York law, gee, many Christmas, that includes some great stuff. If you're a consumer, you're allowed to smoke on the street anywhere that tobacco smoking is allowed. Marijuana smoking will now be legal on the street.
Awesome.
They are going to license social lounges, smokeasies, which obviously we need that. I think the only other jurisdiction to do that so far may be Denver, I think has, but they haven't opened any smokeasies yet. They have home delivery. They have employment protection. We're not there yet, but we're getting close on some of these laws. to treating marijuana smokers fairly in all aspects of their lives. And that's obviously our ultimate goal. I'm sure you've still got some work to do up there, but you've sure made a lot of progress.
Right now, we do have the lounges coming up here too in Michigan, and we had delivery, and we haven't started with the lounges, but they're pending. They're just about ready to go.
And is that being done by regulation?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's worked into the legalization law. It came with the 2018 rule, but regulations were slow in coming. That's why we don't have one open yet. But probably by the end of 21, there'll be a half a dozen open, I think.
Oh, great, great.
Hey, let's take.
That we have to stay home to smoke just does not appeal to me.
Right on. I like it. Well, I like the outdoor thing, and I also like the fact that so much of the revenue generation is going to go to the social equity programs. It's going to get funded heavily. It's going to have some teeth that way. And that was great for New York also.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this compiled video about Matt, and then get back on the conversation here. Rick, you ready?
Yeah, I am.
It's better we get to watch it longer now because
Yeah.
Nice.
That was awesome.
That was a short film. That was awesome.
Jared
So-
Jeffries
Yeah,
from
it was like a mini series.
Jared
Jared-
Jeffries, I believe, inspired by partner in Cannabis Counsel, Tom Lavigne.
yeah.
I asked him to participate, so very cool.
That was nice.
Matt, you're on mute, sir, which, kind of fitting.
Brought a tear to my eye.
I was saying it made me laugh and cry and everything.
Yeah,
I was laughing
right.
out loud.
You know what? I watch that video and I see dead people, and it said Michigan Missy, and I saw Marvin in there, and
Steve Sharp.
Steve Sharp.
was in there. True, yeah. You know what? That's one of the casualties of being an advocate in medical marijuana issues, is that you, by its very nature, befriend ill people, and sometimes they get taken. But I wouldn't do it any other way. I wouldn't be doing anything else, and I'm sure Matt's the same.
Joined by the Reverend Steve Thompson, former executive director of the Michigan chapter.
Hey, Rev Steve. What's up?
Hi, everybody. How are you? Good to see you all.
Good to see you.
Basically, good to see you down there in the bottom, Keith, and then you got Matt on top of you. So, brother Matt,
Hey, it's
how
nice,
you doing,
it's
buddy?
nice to capture all this legendary scene here on one screen.
Well, in some ways,
Well,
much of the legalization stuff started in your state. I mean, I remember the Free John Sinclair rally in Michigan, and then the early hash bash hobbies, not just the early ones, you're still having them. So when I think about the earliest days of NORML, I think about being up in Michigan.
And John was a NORML rep back in the early 70s when NORML was real big in the legislature, and they were pretty active back then.
Keith, were you at the concert at
Yes.
John? You were at the concert at
I
Chrysler Arena in Ann
wasn't
Arbor?
here. I jumped in my Volkswagen camper. I think it was only a few months after I founded NORML. I just had read about what was happening, and something told me, you ought to be there. This seems important. So I drove up, and I guess it's Chrysler Stadium or wherever it was held.
Chrysler
Arena. I remember sitting there, and I brought a couple of joints, thinking, maybe you had to be careful. People had pounds of marijuana out, openly rolling joints and passing them. It was the nearest thing I'd ever seen to legalization ahead of time.
That's great. The cannabis law section is a petition to get a legal milestone, a historic marker, a bar marker put up for the arc of legalization, the 50 years basically from that concert to, and I know there was stuff before it, but from then to our passing the legalization in 2018. We just thought, and it's kind of tweaking them, some of the higher ups in the bar, not exactly moving it right along, I would say.
Well, let me observe, though, that Matt's a former director of the cannabis law section of the State Bar Association here in Michigan, and that has, 800 attorneys as members now, Matt?
Right.
It's got to be the largest section of its kind in the United States.
But the really great ones are members of the NORML Legal Committee.
Well, a lot of the same people.
Fantastic.
Keith, I might see you in Key West in December.
Oh, great. Yeah, do come down.
I booked a room, so.
It'll be the first one that I'm confident we are going to be able to hold in person. We've had to reschedule the last three, and I think there's kind of pin-up demand. We need to get together with our friends and colleagues and get stoned.
Absolutely.
It's usually a good idea.
I'm going to
That's what you want your lawyer to say. Right, okay.
So what is
Matt,
the
I'm supposed to pass on to you, buddy. Matthew Abel. I'm supposed to pass on to you a big hug from Melody Carr. She was supposed to be here with me this evening, and she came down ill, so she went home. So she's not going to be able to be with me, but she said to tell you, consider yourself a big hug by her, and congratulations on your retirement.
I'm sorry that we missed Mel. And I went to Ann Arbor for Hash Bash, and I really missed her standing on the brick wall. I went up there for a moment myself. You can let her know, just to cover that spot.
last couple of years, she's carried a sign reminding everybody about Rainbow Farm, and she may be one of the only people that carries Tom and Raleigh's name into the hash bash nowadays, and that's pretty special.
And incidentally, let me use this opportunity to announce that next week's show we are going to dedicate it to discussing the story of Rainbow Farm. And many of the same people who are on here today will be back for that discussion, plus many others.
What year? What year?
That circle, you know, they're having an event there at Rainbow Farm.
Yep.
Time and what?
This weekend. Yep.
This weekend they have this year. Yeah.
It was 2001.
Was it? Yeah.
It was the week before 9/11.
20 years.
Oh, don't say that.
Or there
20 years, Rick.
I know.
Oh, yeah, and,
You're lucky, Rick. You're lucky.
No, I have the magic shampoo. I'm not lucky at all. Magic shampoo, so yes. I look much better. Yes. No, but Matt, it's been a pleasure serving on the board of Michigan NORML with you over these years. You've been a board member, executive director for 10 years. I've been on board for, I don't know, like 5. Adam, I think, for probably as long as I. And we're joined right now by Tom Lavigne, a partner in Cannabis Counsel. Matt's dual personality right there at the law firm. But
there's 5 of us, but you know, Tom's
there's only 2
Tom's
of
got
you.
his own personality.
35 attorneys. There's only 2 of you guys.
I can't be the pretty face at this one.
Yeah. Tom's got
that
that
is true.
Hey, it's
pretty
great
face
to see everybody.
and the rowing guy. But yeah, it's been
a
wonderful.
fantastic experience working with Matt. You know, he and I ran for office in the Green Party. He's a true activist, and you know, he's involved in so many different organizations. I came over and joined Matt, and he introduced me to the whole community of lawyers. It was really great. Keith, you know, going out to the NORML Legal Conference events out in Aspen and Key West were just fantastic times, and it's such a cohesive community of lawyers that support each other, and Matt really emulates that. He's respected, you know, by these lawyers all over the country. He's been at it so long, and it's been a great experience working with you, man. Gotta tell you.
Well, I will say this: Cannabis Counsel, headed by both of you, has been that bastion of cannabis advocacy, the one locus that everything is focused around for many, many years now. And being in Detroit is a disadvantage in that respect because there's so much Michigan that's far away from it, but yet Cannabis Counsel has its own draw. It was only fitting that we had the party at Cannabis Counsel on the eve of election night, November 6, 2018, when we took home the gold. Yes. It was a legendary experience, and thanks again to Matt and Tom for hosting and for everything you've done.
We look forward to those annual meetings happening again. You know, those annual celebrations will definitely return this year.
Yeah.
Can I just tell a quick little story about Matt and Tom?
Stretch it, make it big, make it a big story.
When I had decided that it was time for me to step down and retire, because I thought it would be much better to put a clean-cut looking guy in a suit and tie, you know, in front of the media, you know, as we progressed, you know, gained recreational here in the state. So the year that I decided to retire was 2011, and I started early that year praying about it. I mean, most of you know me. My Christianity is real to me, so I wanted to do what God wanted me to do, and it was God that told me it was time for me to step back and make room for fresh blood with new ideas and better ideas. But it was really comical because I prayed hard about that all up through the winter, up to the summer. And one afternoon, I get a surprise visit from Tom Lavigne and Matt Abel. It just made my day. They were on their way back from the UP, if I remember right. And we sat in the living room at the house in town and sat down and talked. And one thing led to another. And Matt told me that he was ready to take over as executive director of Michigan NORML. And I looked at the both of them and I looked up and I said, thank you, God. Matt, you may not know it, but you are the answer to my prayer that I've been praying for almost a year. So I'll never forget that visit. The other quick little visit I'll never forget is one time Matt was up here evidently representing somebody, I think, at Benzie County Court, and he forgot to bring a tie with him. So he comes to the Reverend looking for a tie, a long tie. I had to search and search and search in my old business clothes when I was in the food business, and I actually found a tie. And if I remember right, it was blue or something. And I think I told Matt to keep it. But yeah, I saved the day for him at court. But I wanted to share that.
I told you I might need it next time.
It's like my cousin Vinny moment, you know.
What a great story. Matt, when did you start your cannabis advocacy? How early?
Well, let's see.
13.
I really just, yeah, pretty much. I actually read an ad in Playboy. Playboy had given NORML full-page ad, right, Keith? And
we used to get 2 full-page ads every year in Playboy during the 70s. Yep.
And I saw one of those. I think it was 71, and sent in. I think it was $15. Maybe it was $5, but I got one of those square stickers. I love that. I still have
Liberate marijuana.
Yeah,
it said liberate marijuana. It looks like something out of the 60s. When I look at it now, I laugh.
It's vintage. Yeah.
And, I kept it and I saved it. And I can't say I was a member constantly on. I was kind of in. I was way in the closet, but politically, you know, I always say I only got my own place because I wanted to smoke in my office.
Me too.
The way that worked, you know. So
That's right.
But I was a criminal defense lawyer when I concentrated on cannabis advocacy and cannabis criminal defense in the mid '90s, and my son Julian, I took time off when he was born, and after he was born, a couple of years old, I went back to work and started working with Buck Davis and Cindy Heenan, who do police misconduct work. They're friends of mine, and they introduced me to the National Lawyers Guild and the Drug Policy Project and others, and I didn't realize there was an active NORML legal committee, so shame on me, Keith, because I would have joined years earlier as a lawyer, but I had no idea. And when I finally stumbled across it, I was like, wow, I was in Disneyland, you know. It was,
you know, that was really largely started by John Zwerling and Marvin Miller and Bill Rittenberg, a number of those guys, at a time when I was actually not working at NORML. And I was thrilled when I came back to NORML in '94 to see how well organized the legal committee was. And of course, it's played a major role in the organization since. But it was actually started by your friends that I think you knew from NACDL already.
Yeah.
Right. Those guys are giants, and I love it. And it's great, highly educational, and a lot of fun. That's kind of the way I like to work anyway. And it's perfect to be better. And so, you know, my advocacy and criminal defense work just led into fighting only marijuana cases. Other lawyers thought I was crazy. I had a card with the indica leaf and the sativa leaf on it because Michigan defines cannabis as sativa L. And so I'm arguing the prosecutor has to prove it's not indica, you know, and not
Every case.
And I never really won the argument, but I got a lot of good deals from some prosecutors who were frustrated sooner or later, and most of those work out in pleas. It's not my choice. And it was one of the few things I had sometimes. And then when when the medical marijuana law passed, I had been a petitioner, but I was not active in drafting it or doing that. But when the medical marijuana law passed, all the other lawyers who was saying I was crazy to develop a practice in just marijuana criminal defense were calling me for advice about what the new law meant, you know? And so from there, my phone was ringing off the hook. It was, yeah. So it was.
Well, finish the story. 2008, your phone's ringing off the hook. Keep going.
Well, it's different now. The phones aren't ringing off the hook because people aren't getting busted, and there are hundreds of lawyers doing cannabis criminal defense work as well. Back when a lot of caregivers were getting busted and all that, there still was a lot of criminal defense work. But I think that's tamped down quite a bit. And now there are a lot of business lawyers, and you know, it's going to mergers and acquisitions and securities and Bitcoin transfers and what the hell, you know? My hair fell out.
There you go.
That's what happened. Unfortunately, there's another push to recriminalize driving, you know, while doing what you're doing right now. And there'll be another need for attorneys to defend people in cannabis and driving situations. You've been active in trying to get legislation started to stop things like that. Cannabis Council's been the home to many fundraisers for worthy politicians who had good ideas about proper ways to address cannabis in Lansing, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think testing bodily fluids is not a good indicator of impairment. We now have impairment tests that are electronic tests, games that people can play for all practical purposes. And so if we really want to test people for impairment, we can. We just refuse to open our eyes to or move away from, we're going to stick a needle in your arm and take blood, you know, because that isn't going to tell you shit in the first place. I mean, yeah, there's THC in my blood. You know, I wake up with THC in my blood, you know. So
that's it. I wake up with THC in my blood. Yes. Right. That's it.
Hey, Tom, you mentioned that you were on a little bit of a schedule and that's coming up. Do you want to like get a little bit more in here before you have to take off?
Sure, yeah. When I walked in the door at Cannabis Counsel, right when another lawyer was walking out, right, Matt?
That's right. The guy quit.
He was a little intimidated. He wouldn't even search cannabis on his search engine. He was too timid. I walked in the same day, and my wife and I were attending Cannabis College to grow marijuana, and Matt was the legal part of the seminar. There was half the class was about growing, and then each class had a little segment on one of them had at law that Matt would handle, and then the next day it would be something related to, like business or something like that. And so I kind of reconnected with Matt there after having been involved with the Green Party with them and some of the peace activism. And Matt's quite, eclectic. He's an activist and in many different levels, and he was on the ACLU board for a number of years, and National Lawyers Guild, and so in many circles he's known as a social justice activist, and I'm proud to have him as my partner.
Thanks, Matt.
Right on.
Thanks. Yeah. Likewise. Tom's a great guy, and he saved me because he had just come from working at a business incubator and was doing just straight business at the time, where I had some business skills, but not nearly what I needed to ramp up at the time. And so he saved me in the practice and helped us be able to transition to instead of worrying about search warrants, we're worrying about that.
It's 5 o'clock.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Very helpful.
It's 4:20.
Jamie, did you get that file from Jared?
Yeah, we watched it earlier in the show, man, and
Oh,
said
good.
that you inspired Jared to make it, and so it was great.
Wow.
Super nice.
Thank you very much.
Now, can I get a copy of that?
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
sure
yeah.
Jared.
It's on YouTube.
That's right. It's on YouTube. Well, Cannabis Counsel, though, we launched several different movements from there. The Repeal Today movement was launched from Cannabis Counsel. We had many of the formative meetings for MiLegalize 2016, plus local initiatives in Wayne County and beyond were
Met
launched.
a lot of the major politicians there, the governor,
Today.
general.
Yeah.
Yep.
Governor.
The current governor and the current attorney general. I think it might have been one of their first fundraisers were at our office.
And we're now supporting Senator Coleman Young for city council.
Yes.
Large city council seat, right?
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was over here a couple of weeks ago, just shoring up support. Absolutely. He was up front in the legislature before a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's I think a crucial role. Not only has it been a building, but it's fostered a lot of individual activism, a lot of activists, as well as political careers too. So the action that you've done, from that location has just been revolutionary in the state. I'm sorry, Rev, I kind of got in front of you there.
I was just going to ask Jamie if I should sign off in order to make room for others to come in. I noticed Tim Beck was trying to get in there a couple of times.
That is starting to happen now. We can only have so many on at a time, and that's going to start easing that in. And I know that Tom's got to leave anyway for other commitments, so let's try that. I don't know if you can stay on
And
be here. Let's try that out. But really appreciate it, Rev. And we'll have you on many other times, including for the Rainbow Farm show coming up.
All right,
Well,
guys.
congratulations once again, Matt, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you, especially since you're retired. You can come up and see me sometime. So
Rev Steve,
we'll talk later.
Rev Steve,
Peace and love,
before you leave,
everybody.
Before you leave, Steve, Matt's trying to say something.
before you leave, Reverend Steve, will you join me in encouraging everybody to renew their membership in Michigan NORML? When I do transition through this, I want us to have a strong organization that carries on. And I think there are a lot of people out there who do want to join. We just need to reach out and make it available. And we've got a new website out there, and go to minorml.org and join. And let's finish what Keith Stroup started 50 years ago.
Yeah, while I'm
And
still
you'll be
alive to enjoy it.
I've been sharing around, about Michigan NORML, and I've been bending everybody's ear and trying to get them to re-up their membership or get a new membership. And I told them either get on the bus or you're going to get left by us. So, yeah, I'm putting it up real good here in Northern Michigan.
Steve. And thank you for all your years of service running the booth at the Monroe Street Fair and everywhere else, because that's been a huge help for years.
I think I will miss Hash Bash and our monthly get-togethers at Archie Keel's setting up the Michigan NORML booth there. I'll probably miss those two the most out of all the years I've done that. But merchandise is sitting here; it's all safe and sound. And when you get a new merchandise director, we'll make arrangements to make sure this merchandise gets to the right person.
Right on.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Okay.
Thanks,
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Jamie, I should probably do the same thing and see what I may be behind on here in my office. Matt, I really do want to tell you, you've been a model state executive director. I mean, you presented yourself professionally. You knew the issue. You were a talented, committed libertarian activist. I really wish in every state in this country we would have had someone as talented and committed as you for the last 10 years. So thank you for all your work.
That's very gracious. Thank you.
Really nice.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on too, man. And
My pleasure.
really appreciate it. And
Thanks for joining us, Cabbage Cafe.
we'll we'll look to hopefully have you back on for a different kind of a show where we can learn more about what's going on with what you're doing in NORML and some of the history there.
I'd be happy anytime.
Great. Thank you very much.
See if I can figure out how.
Matt, that was super nice. That was super nice what he just said.
Rick had mentioned the building, and one of the coolest things I think about the building showed up in the video, and that is the T-shirts that Matt has framed on his wall. And one of the best stories I have is that I actually got out of a traffic issue because the female Detroit police officer recognized my face from being on the wall in Matt Abel's office.
That's great.
So it saved me from some trouble.
John Sinclair has joined us.
Yeah, I didn't know John was going to be on. It's a great surprise.
We've talked about him a couple times before too. We just missed Keith Stroup. He brought you up as knowing that you kicked off a long history of activism on this issue in Michigan. And Tim Beck's here too, kind of. We have his name and a screen.
Tim Beck, baby.
Just don't have a lot of action out of him right now.
Can you see me?
Oh, I can hear him, kind of. Can't see you, Tim. No.
I don't know what's going on.
Your camera is. You have to flip it around for a selfie.
Oh my God,
now
you're
your
right.
camera.
Oh, I know what's going on. We'll do it. Okay, here we go.
It's like leaving the lens cap on, kind of.
The band's all here now. Okay.
Oh my God.
Another former Michigan NORML
Executive
director. We've had
yeah.
all three of the most recent ones on here. But thanks a lot, John and Tim, for coming on board, and we're
anything for Matt Abel.
Yeah, we're paying attention to Matt Abel here a little bit.
Hell yeah.
Let me just refresh the scene for our audio listeners only on Alexa and Spotify. Jamie Lowell is here as host. I'm Rick Thompson. Debra Young is here. Jim Salame. Mr. Hashbash, Adam Brook. We've been joined now by the legendary John Sinclair and Tim Beck, and of course, the man of the hour, Matthew Abel.
Hey.
All right.
Thank you.
Right on. No, this is so cool. I caught a little bit of this. I tuned in about 10 minutes till the program started to make sure I was in. But I really, Matt, I really want to say how happy I am, to be part of all this. And, I was thinking about, well, what do I say? We've gone a way back, but I wanted to share a story for the audience, a Matthew Abel story, all right, that I was also involved in. Probably the best time, Matt, that you and I ever had. And I know you remember it, and I know probably some of you are unaware. But, it goes back to that whole thing with that Coalition for a Safer Detroit versus the Detroit Election Commission. And, you were involved in that, and you were very kind, and when we were thrown off the ballot by the Election Commission, you, at no cost, you voluntarily helped us out. And, I thought we were going to win this hands down. Michael Sapala, Denny Hayes, and all these people, he's a great guy. Mark Brewer said, he's probably going to be fair. I thought we had it in the bag. Well, we didn't. And we lost. And so, we had to go through the appellate process. It took 2 years. And finally, the state Supreme Court put its foot down and said, yep, Detroit, you got to put it on the ballot. And that was such a cool thing, Matt, because I remember you going in there to court, to Michael Sapala's court 2+ years later. And, you had the order. And, and I know lawyers have to be very, very polite when they're dealing with judges, and you did the right thing. But, I remember you had a kind of sarcastic, snarky little tone to your voice when you walked in and presented the order. And he says, he said, well, Your Honor, here's the order. I think you're familiar with the case. Oh man, that was so cool. I just loved it. And then that was not the end of it. If you recall, we went back, to the Election Commission, Crystal Crittenden and what's her name, Janice Winfrey and Charles Pugh, who's now in the can for having sex with underage boys. He's still in prison.
Whoa,
So,
There is.
must be a priest.
oh man! And we went in, and I remember that Charles Pugh just making this. This is so. He hated it. He said he made some comment before we went on. He said, "Well, so if I vote no, does this mean I'm going to jail?" And and nobody said, "Well, he's going to have to, it's a court order and all that." And so then we got a chance to say our piece. And, I got up and I made some comment to the effect like, well, I said, well, everybody, I'm really not surprised that we're meeting again. I figured that would happen because we have rule of law here in the state of Michigan. And then I kind of went on. And then Matthew got up and he lectured these people like they were third graders, like they were little children. And I just loved it. And, he got up and I remember the first words, well, I think this is a teachable moment for all of you concerned. And, I think we really have to learn something by this. And your tone of your voice is like, they were like babies, delinquent third graders. And I just loved it the way you talked back to them and put them in their place. And I remember Richard Clement was there too. And we had this photo somewhere in the archives of you and me and Richard Clement, on the big day when it was ordered. And I'll never forget that. That was so much fun. And I do so much appreciate it. You handling things the way you did. I had to share that with you because I don't think a lot of people know, that you played a role, at least, initially, and you did it at no cost. And that's deeply, in fact, I think you even paid the case fee or something for $150 you popped out of your own, corporate account or whatever. And I said, like, wow, man, this is so cool. And I'll never forget that, man. I really, really appreciate everything. And I had to share that with people because that's real. That was really real. And I really admired the way, I thought it was great the way you handled that one. So.
Well, that's incredible. Thanks for all that detail, Tim. I mean, I remember some of that. Wow.
He's got the short-term memory loss.
Yeah. Well, it was crazy. I mean, I was really, truly shocked when we lost that case. I mean, at least in circuit court with Sapala. I mean, we did everything by the book, period. We had all the signatures. Everything was done to a T. Every dot was, there. Every T was crossed. I mean, it was invulnerable. And I couldn't believe it. I thought
it was insulting. It was an anti-marijuana.
Oh man.
I was at one of those hearings too. I remember Eric Van Dusen was recording it.
That was
and I remember the judge asked Matt a question about, well, what if I told some guy not to wear a beard or something? And you said, Your Honor, that'd be a separate issue. That's a freedom of expression issue.
Yeah. Well,
so, I guess you're right.
Yeah, it was actually, I was at that thing. I remember there was a bunch of us were at that thing. And I still have the video. I play it every once in a while for old times. And, what had happened is a very, let's say a very heavy set white female in a red dress, okay, that was representing the city of Detroit. And her level of competence compared to Tim Knowlton from Honigman, it was not much of a contest. But I remember when she got up, and you're right, Jamie. And actually, she's the one who said, well, what if they get a petition and where all dogs have to wear diapers? Or what about a law that says all males over 21 have to wear a beard? Do we have to put that on the ballot? And it was handled very well by Mr. Knowlton. And sure enough, the ruling came down. Yeah, dogs have to wear. You got to put dogs in diapers. You got to put that on the ballot. If they do everything right, it has to. And that is a published case. They can't do that crap anymore. Ever, nowhere in the state. And see what the city did. It was a long process of very sneaky people, and that started when we won in 2004 on medical marijuana in Detroit. That was the first ballot issue they ever really had to deal with, and we won. And then what they did after that, they changed the city charter during that interim period, and they created a special section where the election commission has the right to determine the constitutionality of anything, that you come up with. And they said, yep, Nope, you can't be on. Nope, unconstitutional. Sorry, nope, you can't do that. Nope, it's reserved to the state. It's reserved to the state. And it's not to the city. So we're not going to put it on. F you. I mean, they didn't say that, but that's really what the argument was. It was just, and they stuck to their guns, and they try that stuff. I've seen they tried that stuff in the past. They just don't like direct democracy over there. And this was, it was really
not too long ago, they shot down a couple of ordinances that passed by a majority of other people. It didn't allow them to be implemented. Yeah. And we've been kind of joined by Chuck. There's some kind of a scene there, and he's definitely connected with us. So we'll see what that turns into. But we got John here right now. John, more than once, I've heard you express your admiration for Matt and everything he's done, and on many different levels and stuff. And so it's fun to give you an opportunity to kind of address that.
Well, I heard you honoring him today, and I always honor Matt Abel. He's also a close personal friend of mine. We go to the ball games together.
Well,
let's go tonight, man. The Tigers are in town, John.
Yeah, I know. I've been listening to them. They just gave away 2 games. Like they were fucking kindergartners.
To the Kansas City Royals, yeah. It was bad.
They gave them away, both of those games, and also last night.
Yeah, lose by 1 run, and when you had the lead, I know.
They gave away 3 unearned runs in the 7th inning. What kind of shit is that?
Well, the last time they won, Miggy had to hit a grand slam and an extra home run.
And he had one before that. It wasn't enough. Well,
hey, Chuck, are you there?
I'm here. I gotta reverse my camera. It's showing. I think it's showing my chest.
The last time they made the team this bad was when they were trying to destroy it in order to build a new stadium. What do they do now? What's their excuse now? I don't get it.
Chuck, I think your mic is focused in the wrong.
With the pizzas, they got so much money you couldn't even shake a stick at it. All about buying some good ball players.
The Yankees series this weekend. The Yankees this weekend. Dave's working 3 days down there.
Need to get rid of that bad management.
Yeah. Tell you what, cannabis law reform has been more successful in Michigan than the Detroit Tigers have been over the last 10 years of Matt Abel's reign at Michigan NORML. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's still fun.
We got one World Series win. It's
doesn't matter. It's always fun to go to the game on a nice sunny afternoon.
Yeah, you can't beat a baseball.
Twilight game in the summer. Yeah.
A Thursday afternoon contest.
Yeah. Yes. Nice, yeah.
Well, Matt Abel and his son. We've had a lot of fun at Tiger Stadium. And I'm a huge fan of his work in the marijuana field.
Wow.
He's a great lawyer. And he had the nerve to name his company the Cannabis Counsel. I thought that was an act of incredible courage. I loved it. Now they're doing it all over.
My God, my God, my God, my God.
Yeah, I've really appreciated
So true.
Wow.
Matt for so long. Always there.
Always there.
Chuck, we can hear you pretty well. We just can't.
He's just going to look at his desk.
How do I reverse?
I see your chair only.
How do I reverse my camera?
Who's that, Chuck?
Yeah.
Let's get on the other side of the table.
There you go.
You're working it. Yeah, right.
Lay your head on top of the desk.
There you are.
Go.
Nice package shot there, Chuck.
This is
I can't see anything.
You're torso.
Your pants are still on, Chuck.
There you go.
How many of us can pass that test? How many of us can pass that test?
I cannot.
Which test? I can't even operate a computer. Someday.
There you go. There you are.
I'm taking lessons from Colin. Lessons from Colin now.
Jen was gonna give me a hand.
Can't
Hey,
see
Doug,
anything.
Take a second to chime in about Matt while you're figuring that out.
Well, Matt has always been there, always been a spark plug, always made things happen, and always been a voice of reason, and then also an activist willing to push the envelope right to the any possible limit, to make any progress we could possibly make, and always known that he would be there and help with whatever was happening, and it's been it's just one of the most stalwart, consistent, dedicated activists that I've known, and it's been a joy, Matthew, to work with you.
Amen.
Thank you, Joe.
We've made it, we have made things happen. We haven't just spun our wheels. We have really made progress in Michigan, and there's no reason to stop now.
We see you really well now, too.
Yeah.
You're perfect.
I'm looking forward to this social use thing. There's this house in Ann Arbor, the first licensed consumption establishment, and John and I should go over there sometime and let them treat us. I doubt they will, but it would just be fascinating to sit down in a utterly legal context.
Well, around August, one of those are going to be going down in Kalkaska, and inside of it, there will be a coffee service that is dedicated to John Sinclair.
Whoa. Whoa.
Right on.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, John took risks when nobody else would take risks, and put together a whole political cosmology and theology that made sense to me, and really pushed the envelope, and we do all stand on John's shoulders for just opening things up, opening the whole discussion right up.
Yeah.
Well, man.
Yeah.
We had Keith Stroup on here earlier today, and Keith mentioned that in the early days, the formative days of Michigan NORML, nationally rather, Michigan is one of those states that played a key role. So a lot of what happened in cannabis law reform happened here, and John Sinclair was a big part of that. John, in what year?
Wait a minute! I was never part of NORML. NORML to me was an organization of lawyers who maintained the status quo for about 40 years.
He acknowledged you kicked off.
They got a lot of
you sparked a lot of the activism here.
And they created this thing where you pled guilty, and then you got probation.
Wow.
And they rode that
spreading fake news, Rick.
Until Matt Abel got in charge here in Michigan. It was the same thing here. Now we're different
about that. I mean, Keith Stroup was just on here. He went to the Free John Sinclair concert at Chrysler Arena.
Yeah, he meant more the fact you kicked off the movement, not specifically NORML. You know.
Well, we campaigned together in 1972 for the California, the first marijuana initiative. We campaigned together in New Mexico and Arizona at the same time.
Well, there you go. I know you just don't like lawyers.
I was active on the group that preceded NORML, which was called Amorphia.
Amorphia, and then there was Limar.
Well, Remar was never really a group; it was just an idea.
Yeah.
So Amorphia, so rolling
the poets with the idea that you should legalize marijuana. We didn't have an organization, though.
Yeah.
John, you seen what Amorphia
had an organization, but they killed themselves by adopting the need to create hemp paper. And they ruined everything by getting this paper into product. And by the time they got the papers made, they went under. And they turned everything over to NORML.
Right. That made them go broke.
Are those rolling papers hemp? Are those rolling papers hemp that Amorphia made?
Well, yeah, they started with a regular rolling paper, and they called those Acapulco Gold. Our idea was if you trademark these names and put them into use in a commercial way, but then you would own the name Acapulco Gold. So that when we did have legalization, we would own Acapulco Gold. I thought that was pretty
Wait a minute, that's cool. Did we just hear it here first? You're claiming Acapulco Gold? I'm saying yes, go with it.
Right.
And,
let's file those papers.
We had a great visionary called Blair Newman, and also the great Dr. Michael Aldrich, who started the Fitzhugh Ludlow Memorial Library in San Francisco. They were the main motives behind Morphia.
I've met Michael Aldrich.
Yeah, he's a great American.
Yeah.
Well, I turned him on.
Folks, I got to get going.
Yeah.
A thing at 5:30, okay? And I'm sorry, but I
Thanks for saying, man.
I'm very happy to be here.
Tim, thank you very much for coming on and being a part of this, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad. And Matt, thank you so much, man. We had some great times together. But that shit with Zapala and that election commission, I'm never going to forget that. You were good. You were really good. Thank you.
Put it up on YouTube, Tim, then it'll be there for posterity. I'm going to have to do.
Thank God, man. Take care, y'all. All righty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Bye. My pleasure, Matt.
All right.
Great American, Tim.
What quite a lineup we've got today. Matt, how do you feel about all of these wonderful people coming to show you a little bit of a reflective cool on your life here?
I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised. I was just expecting a half-hour interview kind of. And then it went sideways on me real quick. And I was pretty excited. It's great to see everybody. The video made me laugh and cry, like I said, and it's great to be honored and acknowledged. And all of you are dyed-in-the-wool activists as well. So thank you all for your work. It's a joint team effort. You know, I was lucky enough to get this building at the right time in Detroit when nobody really wanted real estate, and then be able to rehab it the way we wanted. I always had the vision of the big room being a multi-purpose meeting / yoga room, and and the rest of it. Now we have a deck on the front, so you're all invited to come over and it's Jefferson's a lot of free entertainment.
Oh yeah,
on the front deck.
Together,
Kitchen, we have a beer and wine fridge. Not that there's any beer or wine in there, but you might get lucky. And the liquor's over the, so never a problem. Yeah, I'm happy to have this place to be able to host so many different things, and it's great that people are willing to pitch in and help us out around here as well. And the law firm seems to get along with the other tenants pretty well. And Nature's Answer moved out, but one of the other doctors has taken over and still writing recs. And it's moving toward a more, I think, holistic medical practice, which always was my, I don't want to own this or have any, but as a tenant, I still would like, it'd be great if there was a doctor in the house I could just walk up to with any kind of an issue. And I think that's the way cannabis needs to be integrated into a holistic lifestyle, really. One thing about the regulated market I really am happy about is to know what the dosages are of gummies, things like that. That, I got the 5 milligram Kiva chocolate covered coffee beans, and I've got the 10 milligram Wana sativa gummies. And I know they're a bad guy, or at least their distributor not playing well with others. But I like their product doesn't have the aftertaste that a lot of others do. But I'm always looking at trying other product, and like I was saying, I've been rolling. I rolled this one, and although I need to smoke less and vape more, I think we all have to be concerned about just smoke, over years and years and years.
Good for you.
I had asthma as a kid.
Marijuana smoke is good for us.
Well, I had asthma.
I hope so.
And when like weed was okay, but if I smoked hash, it would make me congested, just too dense.
Don't smoke it.
So don't smoke hash.
Right.
Or smoke better hash.
So it's not really.
But don't discourage.
You might be right, Adam. We'll see. So
blonde Lebanese.
I'm gonna start making my own, perhaps. Lebanese from Lebanon, or
yeah, it comes through Israel.
Lebanon, Ohio.
No.
Hey, Matt.
I smoked Lebanese hash on the shores of the Mediterranean, driving down Juni in Lebanon with a friend of mine. That's always a great memory of mine.
Yeah.
Well, I remember that's what they had was Lebanese hash, and then it disappeared. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
said, what happened to the hash? And they said, well, they had a war.
Right.
They stopped growing it.
Kind of happened with the Afghani stuff, too.
I'll bet. Well, they should be able to grow some more pretty soon then.
Oh, trust me, they still grow it. We still see it.
After 20 years.
The nose gets it.
After 20 years of the idiots in Washington being up their ass, it's going to be different now.
Is it?
Yeah. I got another guest to bring on in a second, but I did get a message from Brad Forrester that he wanted to be conveyed during this broadcast, and I will read it from Brad. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve on a board led by Matthew Abel, especially consider the weight of the cannabis reforms that were accomplished during his tenure as executive director of our organization. But Matt's dedication to ending cannabis prohibition goes beyond his contributions to our legalization efforts. Matt has been a force for defending the rights of patients, caregivers, and recreational consumers alike in the courtroom. Matt also provided expert testimony before legislative bodies, the Marijuana Regulatory Agency, bureaucratic agencies, and in courtrooms across the state. Matt has even been an invited speaker at many national cannabis reform events across the country. I'm proud to have served at his side for the past 8 years, and I wish him all the best in his future endeavors. Brad Forrester.
All right, Brad. Right on.
Oh,
And this isn't happening, I mean, as far as like normal, this isn't like immediate. You're in the process of, as I understand it, and that'll happen down the road. But Brad and a couple others are going to be stepping down sooner than that, and we want to give some tribute to them also. Not using this little time to do that. At some point, I'd like to have him on and talk about a lot of his accomplishments as well, and others too.
Well, yeah, not too far down the road, hopefully. I think Brad and I are probably going to transition off the board at the same time.
Okay.
Which is going to be.
Well, you giving it up?
Yes, John. I'm gonna. Here's the deal, John. We really need an advisory committee of gray bearded men and women, for that matter, and so it's been suggested that you be the honorary chair, and
me.
Yes, you, John Sinclair, the honorary chair. It's musical. You can't say no.
I told him it was a good idea, John.
Whatever Adam says.
And there you go.
That's easy.
Well,
well, that's great. We just got a yes on the John Sinclair as honorary chair, so that's good. We've been joined by Curtis Goure. Kurt, of course, from the New Shango dispensary down in Hazel Park, but also for many, many years as BDT's tobacco and pipe shop. And I know you've got a lot of memories of Matthew Abel you'd like to share, Curtis. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Curtis.
Curtis, can you hear us?
Nope.
I can't
figure that out.
He's listening
I
to
can
some
hear
dub
you. I
stuff.
can hear him.
Lady Gaga.
Flip it to the black one.
Lady Gaga. John Sinclair says Lady Gaga. Wow, I'm glad we got that on tape.
She's in an answer. Trust me, she's been an answer in the New York crossword.
I hear Tracy in the background.
Yes, when in doubt, let the wife sort it out. That's
See that we see
Try.
be the solution
The
several
mic
times
in.
on this show and others.
So Matt, thanks so much for being so gracious to put up with all of our memories and our ribbing and our teasing. We're not done yet, though.
That's hilarious. You guys caught me off guard. I would have dressed better or something.
Just be
You're looking good. You're looking good.
What do you need a hat for?
Try mic in again.
Yep. John Schlicker in our chat says, very well said, Brad Forrester. Thank you, John, for your comment. And Josh Maupin says, thank you to every person on the panel today for all your hard work. You are the activist all-star team. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cannabis Counsel hat. There you go.
What about just taking it out?
I gotta
and
tell
put it
you,
in here?
one of my favorite things is my Cannabis Counsel scraping card.
He has a mic.
I got those.
I got one too. Yeah.
Yeah,
My
I encourage
was
fans to reprint them.
Cannabis Counsel coffee cups, but my coffee cup, all the stuff washed off of it.
Oh, man.
You must have had it for a long time.
It's just a yellow. I've been having it for a long time.
Matt, I don't know if you just heard, but
It's just a yellow cup.
John needs to replace the Cannabis Counsel coffee cup. Can you take care of that?
Well, we have a couple of those. Yeah.
There you go.
Mine's just
I've worn a couple
yellow
out
cup now, Matt.
over the years.
Sorry?
That's fun.
Mine's just a yellow cup now. All the writing disappeared.
Curtis, are you with us yet, sir?
I hope so. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, there you go, man.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was having some technical difficulties for a little while, and my wonderful wife Tracy came up and tried to correct them. So I hope everybody can hear me clearly.
You did a great job.
Well, thank you. Well, thanks for having me on, and I'm honored to be part of this gathering here. Matt, you've meant so much to me as I entered the industry a number of years ago. I'm going to shut my other phone off here. And I have to tell the story, I think, of one of the first times that I met you at your office, where Charlie escorted me down, Charlie Strackbine, and we came down to your office. And I was just mesmerized by, at that time, the amount of art and collectibles you had on the wall. And then shortly thereafter, we entered the conference room, and correct me if I'm wrong, that was the former sound studio where the likes of Howard Stern once hosted his show. And then I remember you brought out a real good sized joint for us to start the conversation with. So that was one of my first, I think, times that we had an opportunity to meet. And I think that just started the whole momentum, not only for me, but for my wife, Tracy, to be part of the marijuana law section, and obviously now the cannabis law section. And just you've meant so much to so many of us. And I'm able to kind of, on the certain side of the industry, kind of carry the torch and help. And that was all started because of the likes of yourself and others that have been on the broadcast today. So I'm just so thankful to be part of this. And I know I spoke to Adam. I have to get a copy of this over to John. So this is a photograph that was taken at the Chrysler Arena by Clyde Stringer. And this is one of the only ones that he had remaining. So on the stage at that time, we think it was John Lennon, although we can't be 100% certain. I think he indicated that was John Lennon when he snapped that photo. So I know that I spoke, I think, with Adam about this. So John, I got to get you a copy of that. And Matt, I'll make sure I get you a copy of that to hang on the wall.
Awesome.
Yeah, because of you, Curtis, I've thrown that up on. You sent me like a digital version of it, and I've put it up on the screen here before. Not today, but the past when John.
Oh, right on. Oh, that's right. I did. Okay, super.
That's where I got mine.
That's really cool. Thanks so much, Curtis.
Very cool.
You're always going to be cool artwork. So talk about a collection. I was in the new BDTs the other day, and I love it, man. It's the museum above all the displays in the store. If you guys haven't been in there, walk in there and walk around and check out all the good classic cannabis artwork. It's fun. It's nice. And Curtis, you've been a great friend over the years. I appreciate everything, and much success. Shango's an awesome store. I might even go back. I was telling everybody before you came on, I just go in to check out the pre-rolls because that's what I think the market likes. You know, telling my accountant to write it all off. But, so
that's great. One other story, if I may, which I think involves Debra. Debra, I think you remember this story. This was back right after Tommy appeared in 2015, and they gave him the key to the city. Yeah. I thought that was the opportune time to go back and speak with Ed Klobuchar, the city manager, and Jeff Campbell, the building manager, about where Hazel Park was headed with cannabis and the possibility of inviting retail, grow, and processors to be part of the community. And Matt, I remember you and Debra at that meeting, and it was a really good exchange of information. And it was just such a relief to have conversation with the municipality that was receptive to what we were talking about versus all the years of operating head shops and just in fear of prosecution or the police coming in, or just something always bad happening. It was just always this schlep rock cloud that seemed to be hanging over that, oh my God, are we going to be in business the next day? And that whole conversation at the city of Hazel Park and just good things happening. I think Rick, you had a conference. You were actually up at a podium at a city council meeting at one time, and I think maybe Jamie had even been there as well, talking to the city council at one time. I think that might have been before maybe 2013. Rick, do you recall that at all?
I spoke to Hazel Park a couple of times. I was living in Hazel Park in 2013.
Okay.
And look at now.
I remember
there was a Big Daddy's at least attempt there too.
Yes, with the Phoenix Cafe.
It's like the Mecca now. It's beautiful.
Marvin had a thing going at the Phoenix Cafe. And we broadcast some planted green trees for a while from there too.
Yeah,
we did some fun parties at the Phoenix Cafe.
Yeah.
No, it's been great to have the support of all of you. John, I'm just so thankful you got down here for the podcast. The one day, it was probably 2 years ago, that you came down and we did a podcast here. I got a couple photos that Jamie and Rick were so gracious enough to give me. So again, just wonderful. Adam, and again, thank you for all you've done, hooking me up with shirts, Hash Bash shirts, and just doing a lot of great things. So I think a couple of you might have heard this. So we did here at BDT's get a consumption lounge license. So the hope is that eventually I can incorporate the museum with the consumption lounge license. At least that's what I'm thinking nowadays. It's kind of evolving as things kind of evolve in the industry, but that's the latest incarnation of, I think, what we hope to do. So we broke ground on the parking lot last week, and hopefully we'll break ground on the building in the near future. So I'm definitely going to send out invites to all of you to be part of anything that we do here, and I hope you can show up.
Very exciting stuff.
Great idea. Yeah, great.
Looking forward to it.
I've heard a lot of people talk about doing a cannabis museum in Michigan, but there's nobody that has a potential 420 friendly cannabis museum program in place. That would be pretty amazing.
I donated
City Hazel Park's great.
I know.
What's that, Chuck?
I donated something to Curtis for the museum. It was the first effort to legalize marijuana in Michigan that John Sinclair and his gang put together. I think it was in 73 or 78. I don't know, but it was, I had a petition and a bumper sticker from that effort for statewide legalization in the 70s. And I brought it into Curtis and contributed it to the museum.
Nice.
And I think that it's going to be a hell of a great way to have a consumption establishment, is to have a museum with it.
Yeah, there's all types of really cool stuff there for sure.
Yeah, that is one of my prized possessions. That's for sure. And Matt, all along, the ideas, the entrepreneurial ideas, you are someone that, I tell you what, if people took you up on a tenth or 100th of your ideas, there would be a lot of wealthy people around. I know that I try to kind of absorb everything that you talk about, but just so many great ideas that you've had and have very much influenced me and now my daughter on thinking of the right ways to approach the industry but also still keeping in mind where this all started and those that have put up the fight for many years for the freedom of the rest of us. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Thank
I'm
you.
honored.
I love how many jobs we've created, how many families have dinner on their table from work that we create, businesses that we made possible.
Yeah.
And how many people get to safely smoke pot, feel better.
You know, Chuck, that's a great sentiment. I think what we're going to do is give everybody one more shot at saying thank you to Matthew Abel, and then we're going to have to wind it down because we're down the last 10 minutes. And you know what, Chuck? Why don't we just start with you on that? You have your final thoughts about Matt, if you would, please.
Well, Matt is a brother and an incredible activist, and he was there in 2002, 2003, 2004 when I first got involved, and with the PRA at the beginning and right on through. It's just been someone that you could always depend on to get the work done, and then also have a good attitude about it, and even help me have a better attitude if I wasn't having a really good attitude that day. And that's a friend to count on, someone who gets things done, and then knows how to live life in a happy way as well. And a real Renaissance man, Matthew, and thank you very much.
You know, Curtis, we just had you speaking for a little bit, but let's see if we get final thoughts from you so we could wrap up the show, please.
Well, I think Tracy wanted to say hi.
Tracy.
Matt, here, pop in there.
Oh, hello. Hi, Matt. How's it going?
So I guess real quickly, again, we're both very thankful of Matt and again, the rest of you on what you've done for the industry and for us personally. We're very proud to know you as friends and I believe part of the family of the cannabis industry. And Matt, keep the fight going in one way, shape, or form. And we look forward to seeing you this summer. We've missed out the last summer or so we'll look forward to seeing you this summer.
Matt, you're on mute, sir.
Oops.
Great to see you guys. Thank you so much for all the well wishes, and it was quite a surprise here today. So I'm still a bit shocked, but you guys are awesome. I really enjoyed being friends, and right on.
Right on.
Keep on keeping on with this stuff. We haven't legalized it federally yet. There's still work to do, but enjoy.
Adam, can we get your final thoughts for today's show?
Sure. I was trying to think, how long I've known Matt or how far back we go. And I know I've known him a long time. But one of the coolest things I got to tell everybody is I invited him to my wedding. And as a wedding gift, my lawyer friend gave me a Sela meal and enough packaging to package about 40 kilos. So I thought that was really cool. That shows what kind of guy he is. He's a stand-up guy who knows where it's at.
Amen.
And,
Hey, it was on the registry. I figured you needed one.
of course, it was on the registry. Doesn't everybody need one? Counselor? Right. So
Jim,
yeah, that's that guy, and I really appreciate having him as a friend. You know, I tell people that you know, having lawyers as friends can be difficult because you can't hire your friends, because if they make a mistake or they do you wrong, you got to punch their ticket, and you could never do that to a friend. So Matt's one of those guys who, over the years, if I had a legal question, I was happy to call him up, knowing that he wasn't going to get the gig. He always still gave me the information.
Well, I appreciate you never hiring me, Adam.
Right. I've heard that many a time.
Jim, how about you?
Hey, Matt. I think we're going on a decade of knowing each other from the days of Ohm, and remember you coming in and seeing your son there as well, and then running into you at every fundraiser or event on U of M's campus or around town, and coming down to your place and the inspiration that you bring. And I'm thrilled, and you got to say, in this entire room, I feel honored to be in the presence of all these people and the ones that were on the show earlier today as well. But Matt, I appreciate your service. I wish you the best with your retirement. You deserve every bit of happiness, brother.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah. Good to know you, and I so appreciate all the progress you guys have made and all the activism that's come.
You said that before.
Been there. You've seen me because you've been there. So we're all in this together.
One thing we can know about Jim is that he is a real spark plug in Ann Arbor in this psychedelic group. He's really taken over and taken leadership. And on September 19th, it's going to be the first Entheo Fest, and everybody's invited to a celebration of sacred plants and fungi. And Jim runs the podcast now, and he's the fundraiser who gets us all the money that we need. So Jim's been really great with that psychedelic thing, and we're going to even use a piece of the old artwork. We're going to use the Psychedelic Rangers graphic for some t-shirts, which will be fun from the old day.
Thanks, Sean.
Hey, Deb, I'd like to go to you, and then we'll talk to John.
Yeah, I mean, just Matt, my favorite Eagle Scout. Just to mention the greatest party ever, election night 2018, when we won, and we had the greatest party ever at Cannabis Counsel, including a goat and some crazy shit going on. I mean, what a night. I will never forget that, and it was so great to work with you on MiLegalize. And you're just, one of my idols. What can I say? Good guy all around. Just a nice guy. Oh, real nice to everybody. I love you.
Love you too, Deb. Mutual, much respect. You're a solid activist and have done so much to bring this movement where we are. I really appreciate that. It's always nice to have friends who are stand-up people, And
yeah, I feel the same about you. Really good to have you as friends. Good to know you. I mean, legendary community. But still, cool.
John Sinclair, can you wrap up your thoughts about Matt Abel at the end of our show, sir?
Well, I think the world of Matt Abel is one of my favorite human beings. He was a giant in the cannabis legal industry. And like they were saying, like Adam says, for a lawyer, he's a hell of a guy. I remember my friend Jeffrey Strauss. I don't know if you all know him. He was a great lawyer in Ann Arbor. And he died prematurely. He died. He had physical problems. And I got to speak at his funeral at a church in Ann Arbor. And I had the opportunity of saying Jeff Strauss was a rare individual. He was a lawyer who was not only human, had a heart, but also if you needed some weed, he had some weed for you too. I can't say that about Matt, but we smoked some together. I know that much.
Well, thanks, John. I'd like to share something that I'm sure nobody knows about Matt Abel. There was a time.
Whoa.
Secret.
Wow. I was upstaged. But there was a time when my marriage was splitting up, and I lived in my car for a couple of weeks, and Matt Abel discovered that and brought me to move into Cannabis Counsel. I lived in the basement for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And that was something nobody would ever do. You know,
was that before
no
the
one
fancy bathroom in the shower?
Yes, that's right. It was all spooky, and I felt like I was in my grandparents' cellar, you know. But it was needed. It was a crutch at a time when I was limping, and I appreciate that. So from the bottom of my heart, Matt, you've meant a lot to me on a personal level as well as on a political level too, and you've had all the activism accolades, but you're just a damn fine human being.
Amen.
There you go. Yeah. J-Lo.
Do that. Jamie, what do you say?
Hey, I say I don't know if we can really do it. Well, I don't know if we can do enough tribute for the contribution that Matt has brought to this effort. And we always talk about how it's taken thousands of us over decades, and it has. And I'm always trying to learn more, get better perspective on those who are working on this and how this foundation was built by the time that I came along. And I'm really happy for those who were there before, during, and have seen some success and are still working on it. And, there's nobody who epitomizes that and has been more inspiring in that way. In fact, one of the nationally recognized people from our state, and somebody to be proud of representing us around the country since I've been involved. It's just been a part of my landscape and my environment and my inspiration the whole time that I've been involved in this stuff. Hopefully we can continue talking about more great stories, because I know in this short time, we can only do it so much justice. But I appreciate you coming on today, Matt.
Program.
Well,
Matt, it's your floor.
Much respect and back at you, Jamie and Debra and Jim and everybody. Thank you all very much. Look, everything that was said today may or may not be true, but just for the record, I deny it. Okay. Just want that to be clear. And you guys are all great. Thank you for doing this. It's been a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad hopefully it's recorded, because some of that stuff I literally had forgotten, and there's so much history in there. It's been great having this place for 10 years. And thank you all for having me on the show, for going through all this, and Jared for putting the photo montage together and all that stuff. And Rick for leading it and for being on the board with NORML all these years, and Adam and John for coming out. Go Tigers. I'm serious, man. We can catch the game yet in an hour.
Not going today.
It's 88 degrees out. I think I may take my bike downtown, see what I kind of trouble I get. So I'm glad you're all well. Hope everybody's happy. I'm retiring as the ED of Michigan NORML, but I'm not going away. But I'm hoping to be a bit of a snowbird. So we'll see about that. I'm tired of the cold winters. So rah, go Tigers, and seek spring training.
All right.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Well, really appreciate it. And thanks to everybody who's not on anymore. Tom and Keith Stroup and Reverend Steve and
Tim Beck.
And Curtis, who's now left, and Tracy.
Yep. And the mysterious invisible Chuck. Right. He's
reverse camera Chuck.
I got to learn how to reverse the camera.
No, he's got it figured out now. He's got this.
No, I'm looking at the back of my computer. Oh well.
How do we get out of here?
No, we see it. You get out. You hit the button.
I'll kick everybody out, but
yes, Cabbage Cafe. What a wonderful episode, Jamie.
thanks everybody.
Soon
Yes,
we'll all
Cabbage
party
Cafe.
together.
See you guys.
Right
All
on.
right.
Here.
Peace out.